Hi, I'm Nikki from Gracie's House. I'm a brand ambassador for Redesign with Prima. Today we're going to be working on finishing this piece off, and I'm going to be using chalk pastes. So I've got a variety of colours. I'm just going to show you a few. So this isn't the whole range of colours, there is other colours, but these are the ones that will work for my project today. So I've got Iron Gate, which is a dark, very dark graphite grey. I've got English Drapery, which is a vintage blue. I've got Manna Coffee, which is kind of mid coffee colour. Turkish Coffee, which is got slightly more buff pinky tones. Antique Sage, which is, as it stands, is a bit of a duck egg kind of colour. I've got Kingdom Moss, which is a beautiful green. Water Drops, which is a slightly more punchy but pale turquoise kind of colour. And then Cement, which is a very pale grey. I've also just grabbed my Peacock Paint Couture paint just because there isn't one that quite sits into the right colour. So if I need to add any of that colour tone, that's what I'm going to be using for that. So I'm going to be using some trowels, and you can use chalk paste for a variety of projects. But the way I'm going to use it today is almost like I'm using oil paints. So I'm going to be moving and kind of emulating the texture that shows on the decoupage paper and kind of blend through into my paintwork, just so that we get that textured look. So I'm going to start down here with some darks. I've just got these in a pack of 4, so I'm going to kind of just work with them and see what kind of textures I can create. I'm going to be scooping so that it applies on the back of the trowel, because that's where I'm going to be adding it to. So I'm just really wanting to create, see, we've got these downward strokes here, and that's what I want to emulate, and I want to kind of disguise that line between the paint, but I want to create that using texture. So we can use it in a vertical motion with the trowel vertical, or we can, I kind of want to continue the vertical motion, but obviously if I use that in a horizontal way, then it's going to cover more. And we can just keep going, and it gives that oil painting look. I'm going to add the dark where I feel I want the dark to progress further than the paper, and then we can go in with other colours. I think it's quite nice having it horizontal, will kind of spread the colour out wherever you want it, and then you can really add texture by using those downward motions, and I think maybe a little bit more. Okay, I like this trowel so far. I'm going to try the little flat one that I've got as well. And let's try that with this colour. So I'm just going to go in with some of the Manna Coffee. So that first colour there was the Iron Gate. I'm going to add some bigger chunks of this Manna Coffee down here. I don't mind if I get a bit of in fact I quite like if I get a bit of the Iron Gate mixed in with my Manna Coffee. I quite like that. I'm going to use, I do like the texture that I can create with the smaller, thinner trowel. And I've got a little bit of the Turkish Coffee now. So you can see it's got a slightly different kind of buff tone compared to the other two. The other one, sorry. And let me have a little look. I'm going to go with some of the Antique Sage, and really it's just about building. As you can see, the texture's a lot thicker than a chalk paint, so you can use this to do raised stencils with and allow it to dry. I'm just going to get that smaller one for my texture. Quite like bringing that Iron Gate down into the Antique Sage there. Just pop a little bit more. And of course then with not much on the trowel, you can always just add some really thin scrapes, and it just kind of distinguishes that line between the two. I'm going to go in for a little bit more of my dark iron gate here. Just bearing in mind that I've got the edges of the drawers there as well. And I quite like how it's layering over the top of the, I think that's the grounded colour that I painted previously. Okay, let's go for slightly, I'm going to use the cement just to blend in around here. So we've got some lighter quality around here, not very much. And then let's have a little look back to our Manna Coffee. And you can see I'm really just adding quite small amounts as we go along. And I'm really kind of just, like I said, I'm really just pulling those, this kind of effect here, where it's obviously it's printed, but I'm going to pop a little bit of that peacock in there too. Just because there's some of that sort of brighter peacocky green, just tiny amounts there. Okay, let's go back up here. That's better. Okay, and I'm going to pop a little bit of the Kingdom Moss now. Again, we're just using tiny bits and kind of building, adding some dimension and just general interest to the texture. And I'm going to come back to my antique sage. That's quite nice. I quite like that you can, you just really just need to try all sorts of movements with the trowels, and it's giving quite interesting texture there as well. And what else are we going to have? The Turkish coffee. I'm going to pop a little bit through here too. So you can kind of, you really can be quite random with the movements, just because you just want to add those textures. I'm going to get some of that iron gate moving up here. So it's just all about giving us a really kind of painterly quality. Let's see, I think I'm going to go Turkish coffee down here, and just kind of step back, or move back a little bit and just see what you're creating, and if you're happy. I'm going to pop a little bit of the peacock in over this side just to tie in with what we're doing here. You can use chalk pastes, you can dilute them down, but obviously, out of the pot, it's all about texture. What are we doing? We get a fresh piece of rag. And then I'm just going to move up to this section here. And then I think maybe a tiny bit more down here, and then we're done. Okay. So I'm back to the Turkish coffee. There were some other bits on the top of that colour. And some more of the Manna coffee. So we'll just mix those two together. And once this dries, you'll be able to feel that texture, not just see it, which is great. So it just it'll give your piece a lot of interest. I'm just going to pop my trowel there. And then I'm going to pop a little bit onto that section there as well, so that we're not looking like we've missed a gap. And then a tiny bit of antique sage just to tie those two sections together. And bring it down where we've got the green as well. Okay, and then I'm going to just finish off this section down here. So I kind of want, I'm going to have to go dark a little bit. There is one called Blue Boar. There's a chalk paste called Blue Boar, and I'm sure I've got it, and I couldn't find it in my cupboard. So we're going to have to kind of just make it up, and I might just use a bit of that peacock in there to tie through. Peacock with the iron gate might give us the darkness I'm looking for, and maybe a bit of the kingdom moss in there as well. Again, just to give us some interest. You kind of want your eyes to just look all over the piece and not know where to settle. I'm going to come back over here because I just want this line just hidden a little bit as well. So we're just kind of mixing between our iron gate and the two coffees, the Manor coffee and the Turkish coffee, just to hide what's going on in that paint blend there between the paint and the edge of our decoupage paper. Okay, let me just have a little stand back. I think that's quite interesting. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm gonna, what have we got going on there? Add maybe a tiny little bit more through here, up just on that edge of her face. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So it was just to really show you how to use the chalk paste in a different way, and applying them with trowels rather than just using them to create a raised stencil. So I'm really pleased with how we've kind of transitioned from our decoupage paper into our painted portion of this project. Thanks for joining me. See you again soon.